Hello and welcome to the Final Bell. It is great to have you with us for week number 2. It'll be game number 1 of the 2025 season. And the really good news, as I welcome Meg McDonald, I'm going to welcome Meg first, then I'm going to get to the great news. Meg, hello.
Hi, Lingy. Well done.
I didn't know which order I was going to do that in.
No, I wasn't going to be offended either way, but get to the good news.
Yeah, I wanted you to be a part of this good news
Thank you.
announcement. It is great to have GHMBA officially back on board for the 2025 season, partnering with us to be able to bring you to the Final Bell. It is great to have them, the official health insurance partner of the Geelong Cats. So thank you, GHMBA.
Thank you, GHMBA.
Allowing us to do this podcast. We love doing it. We love talking all things football. Even better news, maybe. Better news than GHMBA being back on board is the fact that we have a guest this week.
I thought you were going to get to a different bit of good news, but we'll start with that one.
Okay.
No, it's...
More good news. There's
More
good news
good news.
everywhere. Tom Stewart is going to join
Tom
us.
Stewart, a
pretty
personal
soon.
fave.
Yeah.
I think he knows that, but I don't know if he's forgotten over the years, but yeah, he's the best, isn't he?
I think once he comes in here, he will understand the love that both of us have for him. He's just an incredible footballer, a wonderful leader at this club. The standards that he sets is outstanding. So looking forward to chatting with him. We're going to get to some questions a little bit later on as well.
Yes, because we would usually have a game review, but it's okay.
Yes, we would. And maybe we'll get into a few observations from opening round. I know there was only 2 games worth.
Pundit life, here we go.
Yeah, have a little look, and then obviously we will look forward to the next game. What was your extra bit of good news you had?
Oh, well, I don't know if you saw the Cats' TikTok during the week, Lingy, but I just
I'm
was...
not sure I've got TikTok on my phone, so please tell me about it.
Well, at my age, I don't go on TikTok very often. I'm that generation where people in my life send me the TikTok links on Instagram /Messenger, and then I eventually click through. But when you read the title of our podcast, To the Final Bell, I was reminded of a TikTok that went out during the week that was testing the players on the second verse of our song. Because did you hear the news that at home games, hopefully starting this weekend with a win, it will be played in full?
The full song?
The full song.
Wow. That'll bring back some great
recital?
memories for me. You going to sing it?
No, I absolutely not. I mean, we wouldn't want it cancelled before it began by me trying to...
How many of the players knew the second verse
I thought they were going to get quizzed on the entire second verse, but they only had to fill in. They only had to guess finish the line, which was our ambition.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, I thought you. I mean, you're a cat.
I had an old record.
Yeah.
The old vinyl that had the both verses on it. That was played to me basically probably since I was in my cot.
The Cats theme song on a vinyl.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Absolutely. And
we've been wondering about, the new setup for the vid and the props that we could have. That would have been...
Do you know that Mum and Dad still have all of their old records, their record collection, I'm certain. I should go back and check and see if that...
Sure, then we should get them on the pod.
I would be certain that record would not be able to be played anymore because I played it so much, I would have scratched the hell out of it and destroyed it. But
fantastic.
It had the second verse, so I do know it well, but I will never, ever, ever sing it on this podcast. I'll sing it after they win the flag this year. How's that sound?
I love that a lot. I will still just be clapping, cheering you on.
Opening round has been done, completed with 2 games. 2 games obviously postponed. Our game, Geelong and Brisbane, has been postponed to round 3. That was nice and simple. The other one, the Gold Coast Essendon one, not quite so simple. And I believe as it stands, it's round 24 around that time. But just wait for more information.
That approach
on that
really resonated with me. Like, just kick it down.
Kick the can down the road.
It'll be fine. We'll deal with it later.
Absolutely.
I respect that. I understand that.
What did you notice from the 2 games? One in particular had some wet weather. The first one late in the game. Hawks were impressive in getting the win over the Swans. And then the Giants, incredibly impressive against Collingwood on Sunday. Do you notice anything maybe as a trend that we could pick up for this week?
Really obvious. So I am always struck at this time of year about how long men's football is. So I know that's on the agenda, but that Friday night one, I was like, I got to go to bed. I go to bed early nowadays. No, but I I watched the whole thing. I'm interested that we're having Stewie in the studio later on because didn't the key defenders dominate? I loved that. And that possibly is easier earlier in the season, but I was texting our backline coach last night and I said, okay, are we channeling Sicily? Are we channeling Taylor? Maybe Tom Barrass? I was loving it.
Yeah. And you did notice, and is what will still be happening this week because of the first game for most teams, when that intensity goes up of real football, but the fatigue builds massively, the skill errors that come with that. The kicking errors were just not quite they just weren't quite as sharp in their skills. But even the fumbly, just taking that, taking the ball, then feeling the body contact, and there was a lot of cough-ups and the ball on the ground again.
Do you mean in that second game more? I was sort of watching the Friday night, the first game, and I thought, to my eye, I didn't think this is the first game of the season. I thought the standard in that game was relatively high, but certainly GWS put Collingwood under a lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure, I agree with that. But I also think there was a period in time where Collingwood had taken over the game completely, just could not finish their work at all, could not kick goals, could not deliver the ball. And that's what early round football is. You have to embrace the fact that it's now messy. And I remember my old coach, Bomber Thompson, used to say, if in doubt in these early rounds, just keep coming back to the football, because chances are a player's going to fumble and it's going to be knocked away. It's going to be stripped. There'll be ground balls that you'll be able to collect and restart the play. Yeah. You're not going to have this beautiful flowing passage of play. So I reckon we saw that early on.
You've said come back to the football before. That's a nice cue. Yeah, I like it.
Yes, that was definitely a familiar theme from me throughout my career. Looking then, and I know we're going to get to this soon as we look towards the Fremantle game this Saturday for the Cats. A good midfield, a very strong contested ball midfield, taking that Sunday game, the Collingwood GWS one, with the skill errors, but also at times the high quality ball getting of some of the younger players in particular from the Giants. It does show the importance of midfields getting on top early, and then if they can use the ball well and not let those intercept defenders mark the footy, how you can pinch wins early just by being efficient with the way you play.
Yeah, absolutely. And I obviously a lot's been made in the last year about our midfield and how we sort of were more of we went fast when we won the ball back in our back half. And we've made a few additions to the team that'll hopefully have us taking the ball forward a little bit earlier. And I'm interested in how that changes a game style as a whole. Let me try and get this question out. But a team to me that wins a lot of centre clearance and plays front half footy, perhaps that operates differently to, that's Tom Hawkins. We're dominating middle and we're getting in deep to Tom Hawkins in a one-on-one and he's taking a contested mark and kicking a goal, Essendon at the MCG, however many years ago that was. That's the game. Or you've got your Jeremy Cameron roaming up and you've got all our fleet of
Close and Stengel
all those
Myers,
ones racing out of the back line going forward. That's two very different styles of football to me. How do you see that going for the Cats?
Yeah, it's a good question because and even the centre bounce one you're talking about is Carlton football last year. With the Cripps dominance through the middle, Mackay and Curnow forward. You can play that way. What I saw from the Giants on the weekend is maybe a little glimpse of what Geelong's might look like a little bit, where Adam Kingsley has spoken very openly with the Giants about the big focus. We want to be a great defensive team. We're going to defend across the ground. We're going to have a great back six and or seven and really strong. And it was always we're going to this behind, great defensively. But clearly what we saw on Sunday was at times an electric offense as well, which was still there. And it's Darcy Jones getting out the back and running three bounces and kicking the goal. Looks great, but it was the speed of Finn Callahan's speed through the middle of the ground when they eventually did win it. But they were winning it high, pretty high up mid, and then turning them around and going. And I wonder if that's what we're going to see a bit with Geelong, because now I look at that midfield, it has got running strength. Ollie Dempsey's on a wing, elite runner. Through the middle of the ground, we know Max Holmes is special in his running capability and his ball winning, and the fact that he can run 10, 15 metres, bounce, and then his kick is travelling another 6, so you can really break those lines. And the forwards that you're describing suit that type of play.
Yep.
Jez is so good at it, but so are all those medium to small forwards that we possess. So it feels like that's the strength of our game. And if we do need to have a bailout and maybe that longer, deeper, that is perhaps Shannon Neal, who's just there going, hey, I understand we're now fatigued, pressure's high, they're coming at us. They got a good midfield as well, and they got some pace. So we just need a bailout long kick, and it's Neal as that longer one, and we can swarm to his feet a little bit.
Yeah, I love that. And I guess it's round 1, but you're looking at inevitably football that stacks up come the end of the year. And if you are good in the contest and you're and you can be all the things we described, quick, agile, but essentially win the hardball, that tracks when it comes to September. And this is not to say this isn't true of a Hawthorn, but it looks decidedly different to me from Hawthorn's massive spread. They're coming out of the back line and they are kicking it 50 metres across the grain and really opening the game up, and then taking on some very impressive kicks to penetrate the middle and go forward from there. I think you're right. I looked at the 2 games in the weekend and you think GWS is more familiar to me as a Cats fan, but both looked impressive.
Yeah, and Hawthorn will be an interesting watch because I think they certainly play with a boldness and a confidence, which is really exciting. They've also got one player who is now, and I spoke about this on radio on the weekend, who's now just confirming his ascent to the true upper echelon of players in the comp, and that's Will Day. He's flirted with it for a year or two, but has been a little bit held back by injury.
Yep.
His complete performance and total ownership of that game on Friday night was just him saying, okay, no, when you start reeling off in your media shows and all these different things you're doing, you start reeling off the names of Bontempelli and Nick Dacos and Petrarca and all these different types of players, you're going to mention my name as well. He's
3 goals
in
in the first half as a mid, I know he rested maybe sort of mid forward, but that's outrageous.
Yeah. 3 votes locked at halftime.
Yeah, he's sort of the way he explodes and he moves through tackle. I was interested watching him and obviously Chad Warner. Like Warner, for a man who is not the biggest man in the world, it wouldn't seem, but obviously supremely conditioned, the way he's like an oppo gets a hold of his hips and he just rips them, and then all of a sudden he's out and he's exploding again. It just, watching those two, it was awesome.
Yeah, and obviously being a Geelong podcast,
sorry everyone.
No, but you can't help it. Your mind just immediately turns to, okay, so who sits in that group of? So Warner's probably already elevated over the last 2 years, given the All-Australians and everything like that, the last 3 years. Day is going and is certainly joining that group, I believe, this season. For us, it then turns to, well, can that be Max Holmes?
Yeah.
So Max Holmes has a wonderful season last year, but could Holmes become a starting All-Australian midfielder, for example? Can Bailey Smith jump back to that Bulldogs form? He's coming off a knee and everything like that, so there's a lot of pressure. Doesn't have to jump there straight away. But those sorts of players begin to elevate into that top bracket. Then you've got this power through the middle of the ground. Unfortunately, on the weekend, we face a Fremantle team that has Caleb Sarong, who's already jumped as well. So it'll be a fascinating battle through the middle of the ground. Who can get on top, contested-wise, efficiency out of the contest, but then under mistake-riddled fatigue conditions of the first game, actually be more efficient in that area.
Just on that question of Maxi Holmes, do you see him as unique in the competition? I think we've made comparisons already in this pod across the first weekend of this player's like this player's like this player. His power explosion and running ability seems unmatched to me, but or is it a Horn Francis? Is he powerful? Like, is it an old danger? What's the?
Yeah, so you can't help but go to Dangerfield-ish. But I think Holmes almost has so Horn Francis is incredible off the burst, so explosive. But then I think, is that then needs to rest? At almost stationary or walking rest, where I think Holmes has got a cruise in him as well, and
He's
then
got
can
my
still
mum
go.
run 400s.
Yeah.
400s, is that right?
Yep.
He's a 400? Yeah.
Yep. And that sort of, so a little bit more extended midfield running. I think there's others who are similar. You mentioned Warner. I think that's not a bad one for Holmes. There's a couple in there, but when I think of what Max's ceiling is or could be, I get very, very excited. I get
that.
next level type stuff. But you got to produce it and produce it consistently and all of that. So they're all the wonderful challenges that are ahead for him. It's how he handles that, how he prepares himself, his professionalism and everything like that. But I think we've seen, obviously, a very professional young man. I want to take a break in just a sec because Tom Stewart is about to walk into this room and have a chat with us. Cool thing is our season does kick off with the postponement of last week at a home game, which is really, really exciting. And a little announcement from the club, make sure any home game, you get into the hottest seats in the stadium at the Carlton Draft Lounge. Now, no
exclamation point.
Yes, no sneaking in there this Saturday, Meg.
Okay.
Are you working or are you just relaxing this weekend?
I'm always on.
Okay,
I'm always on.
It's the second year in this amazing new location in the Joel Selwood stand. The Carlton Draft Lounge is the place to be on game day. Head to the Experience tab on the Cats website for more information on that. So even if you are on this weekend, you'll still just drift in and have a little look at them.
Make an appearance.
Smart play. Let's take a break. Tommy Stewart, the great Cats defender or midfielder or forward, is up next. Winning a three-peat isn't easy, but at GHMBA Health Insurance, that's exactly what we've done. By winning the 2024 CanStar Outstanding Value Hospital Cover in Victoria 3 years running.
GMHBA have been caring for the Geelong community since 1934 and are proud supporters of the mighty Geelong Cats. Join at gmhba.com.au.
Welcome back to the final ballot. It's great to have you with us again. And as promised, big thanks to GMHBA. Tom Stewart is with us. Stewie, hello.
Thanks for having me. Good to be back.
Well, it's great to have you on the eve of, well, I suppose the now official Geelong season kicking off. It's been a strange week or two. How have you individually coped with mentally building up, ready to go, big game against Brisbane and then not, and now having to shift?
Yeah, it was fascinating. We sort of came in and touched on it last Tuesday. It was sort of like a microdose of COVID all over again, sort of the unknown of what was ahead. But, I've touched on it a couple of times in the media and with our boys as well. Like, it's a natural disaster going on. So the least of our concerns was a game of footy. So just doubled down on, the thoughts of all those up in the northern states and how they're all going. But, it was a strange little build-up.
Now, I did my research and watched your presser because big fan.
Yeah, right, thanks, man.
And you said you watched a bit of opening round, and I honestly felt for you throughout as the key defenders / intercepting defenders in the comp absolutely cashed in. Did you feel like you'd missed out over the weekend on some less than polished offences?
Well, mildly, but no, in deep admiration for some of those boys. I started doing yoga on Sundays, which is a new thing in my schedule. Just try and take a bit of flow. I get a bit sore after the yin. It's a bit too static for me, but I watched Sam Taylor with the most amount of admiration. I've met Sam a few times at some awards nights and some AFL functions, and I say he's a kid, but he's a fully grown man, but he's absolutely special to watch. And yeah, when you get in those flow zones of those days where the ball just falls in your lap, as you know, it's one of the great feelings. It's one of the great feelings.
There was some questionable ball use going on in those first couple of games.
You take it when you can get it.
We won't lock on those too much. Can I take you back through your pre-season? How you're travelling, what you noticed from the group? Obviously, still very, very close last season, trying to add different elements to the team and opportunities to find that advantage as a group. How'd you find it? What did you see from the team and from yourself?
Yeah, it's been, I mean, they're rarely enjoyable pre-seasons, but it's been new. It's been a lot fresher, some new faces, obviously a pretty large draft class and Bailey and Jack coming in. So, had to get to know some new teammates, which is always a fine balance, but having a new S&C sort of program as well, which has been very enjoyable. Des and his team have come in and made a real impact on the group. So it's long. It's a long summer. Everyone keeps saying that pre-seasons need to be longer, but I feel like they get longer and longer the longer your career goes on. So it's been a lot of fun. A lot of high-speed running, a lot of heat exposure, a lot of new things to our program, which has been a real challenge individually.
Can I ask you about your role as a leader in that? You talk about the new strength and conditioning team that comes in. Often the majority of the group will take their lead and attitude into a pre-season from the leaders. You're almost expected just buy in immediately, but it is a new team and new people you're working with, and you've got to be convinced a little bit now as an experienced player. How do you balance that to go, well, I want to see this in action and I want to see that it's the right fit and it's going to really extend us, but also I've got to show to all of the other players in the playing group, let's do this, boys. Come on, we're all together in this. How do you find that as a leader of the group?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's a fine balance that you have to strike, because obviously, there's people that are employed to make those decisions, and ultimately the trust falls on them that they're making the right decision for the group. So for myself individually, as a leader of a group, Meg, you've been through this a number of times, and Lingy in your career, like you do have to trust those that make those decisions and try and make every post a winner early days. You're trying to gain the trust of not only those coming into the building, but you're trying to earn their trust as well. You're trying to put your best foot forward and show that you're backing them in. So it's a fine balance, because as a senior player, you sort of have tinkered with a lot of things in your own career and you know what makes you sort of tick. But I just put full trust in Mac and his team that they're employing the right people for our group. And as I said, Des has come in with his own ideas and his own way of doing things, and we're really starting to see the benefits towards the back end of the pre-season with the markers that we're hitting, and all the things that we've gone after are really sort of coming to the fore, if you will, and we're in really good shape.
Yeah, I want to ask you about yourself from an S&C point of view. Sometimes I, watch your football and I wonder if the general public appreciates, honestly, what an athlete you are. I feel like power to weight, don't be modest, you're up there in the team.
I just have a crack, Meg. Just a tryer. I just have a go.
But you've also, I guess you sometimes, in the corridors and things, have a go recently about getting a bit older. So you're in your early 30s. Absolutely. And maybe this is a selfish question, but I'm interested, as you enter, say, this pre-season just gone, are you in a phase where you're still chasing PBs and how am I going to get better athletically, or are we in a maintenance phase? Like, how do you continue to try and be the best in what you may call the last few years, hopefully not, of your career?
I think for myself individually, I've been so lucky to see so up close the longevity of some of my teammates, and try to emulate the way that they've gone about it. Hawk and Joel and Pat, Harry Taylor, when I first came into the league, you take little pieces of what you see that they do and try and bring your own spin on it. So, like I said, like yoga on a Sunday, me and Harry started doing that in 2019, so that was where I sort of got that one from. And Lockie Henderson was big on his sauna and cold therapy and that sort of stuff. So you take little pieces of, champions of our club, and you try and put it in your own schedule and where you can make it fit. But I think for myself, you're sort of always striving for the next thing, and when you get stuck in your ways, you can get a bit laconic and a bit tired and that sort of thing. So I try and find new little stimulants and new things to go after individually, but like the man to my right and to you as well, like I'm just competitive. I just like having a go, and I like getting after it. I like training with the young boys and trying to keep up. And if anything, I probably overdo it at stages, and I do wear myself down a bit more, but I just enjoy getting out there and having a go. This has been one of the few pre-seasons where I've not missed a session, which is a real feather in my cap, and it's something that's really, it's a platform now to into the real stuff, and hopefully it holds me in good stead for another good season.
That is exciting to hear from a Geelong fan, to hear that with your training throughout the pre-season. As we move into the real stuff and we start looking forward, we had to skip the Brisbane game, and you said it so well. Obviously, there was much bigger things at stake there. So you quickly move on to Fremantle, who on paper look a very, very good football team, and I think as far as their development and growth as a team and as a list, and under Justin Longmuir, they'd be looking at this year really excited about the year. Terrific foundation, brought in a couple of players, and they'd be pretty positive about the season ahead, as the Cats are. So this week's game, Saturday afternoon at GHMBA Stadium, looking like it's going to be very, very hot.
Yes.
What's the early thoughts? We're recording this on the Tuesday, so we're only early in the week. What's the feel around? Is it just pure excitement? Let us play.
95% is that. It's just a pure anticipation of what's ahead of us, and it's the longer my career goes on, those pre-season games, you sort of tinker with those and find ways to get up for them. But ultimately, when the round one or opening round happens, it's that little sense of the nerves in the stomach and the butterflies, and you get the sweaty palms thinking about it, like all the good stuff that comes out with it. But as you touched on, like, we've had some magnificent games with Freo over the shorter term, the last sort of 4 or 5 years. It's always close with them. So the way that they set their team up and the young core that they've got now that are really going to come through for the next probably decade it's very enviable from their standpoint. They've built a really solid list, and they've got some players across their board that are really, really talented that if we let them play their way, it's going to be a real challenge for us. But we're super confident that we're going to match it with them inside, and then ask some questions going our way as well, which is the way the modern game is. The quicker you can shift the game into your mode and the way that you think the game should be played, that's the real battle of how the game's going to unfold. So we're really, really excited, and pack your sunscreen in your hat because it's going to be a hot one.
Love that. Now, Freo, they've actually won here on it.
They've got a good record down here.
They've got a good record down here. Is there anything in how a team approaches playing here that you think, all right, this team knows how to do it and this team does it? Because clearly they've got a fair idea of it.
It's an interesting point, because I feel like not only Fremantle travel down here well, but GWS as well. I feel like we sort of mirror each other when we play interstate. We tend to beat them in Perth, and they tend to beat us here. So it's quite a fascinating watch, but I don't think you can read too much into it. Maybe fixturing, it may be timing, it may be injuries. There's too many factors to just say purely that they play well down here and vice versa. But
might just be winning the contested possession.
Potentially, there could be just small factors that get them over the line. But one thing I do know is not only the fact that it's early in the season, it's whenever we play Fremantle, it's always a hot contest. Whether it's individually or as a collective, we match up well against them. It's always tight. It's always a contested game. It's always going to be red hot from start to finish. So to start the year off in that fashion is something that we're really well versed for, and really excited about.
Speaking of matchups, who are the likely 2-3 that you will probably move through on Saturday?
I won't give much away, Lingy. I think I'll keep that one close to my chest.
Old question, I liked it.
No, I think last year, it's no secret, I pivoted a little bit and moved up into a midfield role. So
Brayshaw.
I'm coming back. No, I'm just excited from week to week proposition that I'm not just going to be stuck in one role. I think that's the biggest vote of confidence that I've got from the coaches and Scotty in particular is I can play a variety of roles now for the team, which, as a 31, 32-year-old is something that I'm really, really excited about for the year ahead.
Finally going to kick Jez out and say, mate, I've got
I might go deep. I think I'll give Pat a few years as a deep forward. He's pretty old. He needs the 50 to himself. So when he moves out, I'll move into the forward half and see how I go.
Beautiful. Well, we really appreciate you talking to us. Obviously, big week leading up to the first game. Good luck for Saturday. Can't wait. We've had to wait that little bit extra, but it is going to be big down here, GHMBA Stadium, against the Dockers on Saturday, as all Cats fans listening does know. You're right. Pack your sunblock. Pack your hats. I'm not going to be there. I was going to say
good luck at the Shelford cricket ground.
Of all the crazy things, I've got a cricket semi-final that's landed right on that afternoon, and I'm travelling out to Shelford to play against them. I wish I'd
better return those reserve seats.
I'm going to. My kids are
they're
allowed to
going.
bring mates along
Oh, I
now.
love that.
Yeah,
How
so
good's
they'll be very happy. My kids don't want to come watch me play cricket.
Okay.
They want to watch Stewie play footy. But all the best for this week and for the season ahead. Thanks so much for chatting.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Go the Cats.
Winning a three-peat isn't easy, but at GHMBA Health Insurance, that's exactly what we've done. By winning the 2024 CanStar Outstanding Value Hospital Cover in Victoria 3 years running.
GMHBA have been caring for the Geelong community since 1934 and are proud supporters of the mighty Geelong Cats. Join at gmhba.com.au.
Welcome back to the final bell. It is great to have you with us. We are brought to you by GMHBA. Great to have them on board for season 2025. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, we do have some fan questions now, Meg. We love our fan questions. So please, every week, send them in. We'll get to as many as we can. I always promise we get to as many as we can. Sometimes we give long answers and go off on tangents and get to a few, but we will always try.
We love that. It's all about the intent.
Yes.
Plus, I'm sure you'd rather more time speaking to Stewie than...
Yeah, I know. What a quality person. And I, as you know, my passion is around development of young players and that teaching them both how to play and what's needed at the top level, but also how to behave and act and the...
Just to complement your question, I think the question you asked around the onus on a leader to go all in, but also have the experience and also be naturally critical of things as you know, you're well developed in your career. I thought that was a really good one and really well answered to your point.
Yeah, our young players are in very good hands, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And speaking of young ones, I will say I saw Stu in the gym on the weekend and he's sort of, I don't know, doing bits and bobs, and he had the kids in. I hope he doesn't mind me saying. And they're trying to get at the weights, and he's like kept saying, "Not for kids, not for kids." And I'm thinking, it won't be long though. It's just crazy. It won't be long. We're little weapons like you.
Yes, absolutely. And here's where I embarrass you: our players in both programs, AFL and AFLW, are in wonderful hands with our leaders. Enough of that embarrassing you. Let's get to some questions.
Where do we get those?
This one's an easy one for us to answer from Callan because you've already touched on it. Should the second verse of the song be sung? Callan, yes, it should.
Happy days.
Yes, it will be.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
All right.
Cats.
Here's one I've got a little tougher for you.
Right.
We have watched a little bit of the footy in the opening round. What do you think of the new Channel 7 and Fox scoreboards that are on throughout the play?
Well, I was just saying off air that I hadn't made I'd sort of noticed that it was coming up online more than I'd noticed it being an issue during the broadcast. Producer Jake's got a passionate answer, and we're just going to answer for him. He thinks Channel 7's winning this at the moment. How about you? You've got some allegiances. We both got some allegiances.
Yes, do have some allegiances here. So obviously it's more mid-screen.
Yeah.
The Channel 7 one is smaller through play unless it squeezes out a stat on that particular team. Fox a little bit larger.
How's our lingo? A little bit smaller, and it squeezes out.
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't fully notice, it wasn't taking my eye away from things. You know who noticed it more than ever is my kids.
Yeah.
They kept talking about the different scoreboard. But if you change anything for them that they're used to, it's the biggest thing in the world.
But to be fair, it's like that nostalgia of when I see sometimes the Channel 7 ones and old grand finals replayed, and there's that, I'm going to get the year wrong, but it's the gold.
Yes.
You know the one?
Yep. I
Was
know
it like
exactly. I can picture it.
Early noughties? Or was it
I
late
would have
90s?
gone late 90s.
Late 90s.
At a guess.
Probably when North Melbourne winning premierships. I was watching a lot of football. But yeah, I remember when that changed. It becomes part of how you remember that year of footy. So, and perhaps that's what Channel 7 and Fox are trying to do, is get it in there.
Yeah,
get it in the memory bank.
It is a new rights deal, a new era, everything like that. Pretty soon, I think people will it'll become normal for them to see that. And away we go. This one's from Logan Thomas. Who's one player to look out for this season?
Well, I feel like if you revisit last week, we spoke about a few, didn't we? I'll say it again. I'm going Jack Bowes.
Yeah, I'm so happy you said that, Meg.
With Bowesy.
I think he showed it in the Pracky match.
Yeah.
As he's jumped off the screen. I think I said it last week. He did it last year at various times. He kicks goals, wins it inside, wins it outside. I'm with you on that one. Yep. That's a good one, Logan. So watch out for Jack Bowes. James, where do we think SDK's best position is?
Well, the team needs him in the ruck at the moment, so
that can be his best position.
I think fullback.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think?
Yeah, I think. Do you know what? I think ultimately it's going to be as a deep key defender, but I think the ruck, the time he spends in the ruck will do him some good. I think as that back key defender, he also perhaps can learn, as it takes us all a little while, that his voice can be one of the biggest weapons a defender has.
Yeah.
And in fact,
Yeah.
the team needs that voice, that control, that the general. You know, picture Russell Crowe in Gladiator in the first scene, just calling out the shots and attack on my command. That's the
On my signal.
on my signal. So yes,
I feel like there's a whole separate culture podcast we could do about our mutual interests.
but that's the final defender in the line. That's what you do, don't you? So often you're caught there and you have to set where your high half backs are, where your deep small backs are. You're controlling all of that. So that turnover happens, you're giving your team the best shot to then return the ball.
You're so
over.
right. And it's something that finding your voice on the field is, to those who have done it, it seems easy. Like you, in my instinct, just say anything, just be loud. But it is such an assumption of power and comfort in the team to do so. So yeah, it's something you've got to develop. Maybe add that to your list of things to train with the academy. Let's do yelling practice.
Yelling practice. Yeah, it's funny. I'm going off on a tangent again here. Like I said, we would in our questions, but we would talk about. To me, it came naturally.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't shut up. I would want the setup at the stoppage perfect. I'd want to look behind it, do all that. But other midfielders I played with, and I hope Joel doesn't mind me saying this. Mind you, we are playing Fremantle this week. He does work for Fremantle, Joel Corey. But Joel was a really quiet guy off the field. Wonderful, wonderful human. I love him as a teammate. But he was really quiet in the way he went about things. A quiet intensity, mind you, but quiet. So we worked over time and Joel learnt this, that he had to have two personas.
Yeah.
He would switch a persona on when he went on the field, and that persona was one that was yelling and setting up where the wingers were and what we were doing behind, and it was all this talk and what's that matchup? You watch him coming through there, and if you paused it there, we would have all just looked around and gone, who is this guy?
Yeah.
But it became a persona of Joel on the field, and then Joel could comfortably go back to the persona off the field, which was the quieter.
He didn't need to host a podcast or.
No, he didn't talk as much
in the media.
garbage as I did. But yeah, that ability to switch that yelling and directing and controlling persona on is important. So I think that's what Sam will be able to do, but it takes a little bit of time.
I will say, and one of my favourite things about him is it sounds so basic, but I think he's a really fantastic handballer.
Yep.
And so I'm interested to see how that plays out when he's in the middle more, where he can release plays into space and use his hands.
Yeah, no, I love that. Thanks for that one, James. Party Steve 92, love the name. Do you think Lawson will make the AA side, the All-Australian side this year? That would be a huge leap.
Yeah, not to give away, not to say no. So I won't say no, but I'll say if it were to happen, that would be unbelievable.
Do you think Lawson will make the AA side one day? I think we'd both say he has every capability of that.
Stewie's, I said I listened to his presser, and he just casually threw out, and he was like, I might have different looks in the midfield. I'll go in there sometimes, maybe Lawson. And that was the only other player he mentioned. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Love that.
Yes, please. So Party Steve, we reckon Lawson certainly has all the attributes of an All-Australian. To do it this year would be a giant leap, but...
it'd mean the Cats were going well, I reckon.
Yeah, that'd be nice. At what point do all players wear white headbands in the game? From Seb. We did have the slight controversy of a headband not being ticked off by the AFL during a practice match. It is funny. I reckon I played in a practice match with like a visor on one time. That might have been an intra-club match. But
fantastic.
It was so hot, and I was wearing zinc, and I wore a visor. But
and you just come from the tennis court, and you're like, let's go.
Headbands were never for me. I did have quite
annoy
long
me
hair.
so much. I love a headband in the kitchen. Actually, everyone, it's my favourite place for that
Really?
sweatband. Yeah, I'll show you a photo. I have like one that I put on. Anyway,
All right, not the headband like tied up at the back. an
no,
actual
not the Roger
sweat-
Federer, Rafael Nadal, which I do love. So there was I was a bit torn because people were like, how do you feel about Bailey's headband? And I was like, I love that headband so much because I was so in love with those players as tennis players that I have an affinity with it, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Headbands, not sure. Seb? Don't know. Kai, outside of Victoria, which is your favourite ground to play on? You might have to answer this one because the grounds that are played on now outside of Victoria, I didn't play much on.
Well,
obviously the SCG, the Gabba, I certainly did those, but never played on Optus, never played on the Adelaide Oval.
you never played on the Adelaide Oval.
No, it was not redeveloped by the time I retired.
I played once on the Adelaide Oval, and it's the biggest ground I've ever played on. That is in stadium-wise, and it's my answer. It's my answer for sure. I've never played in the MCG. That I like Metricon too. I think it has a similar.
Sorry, I did
sorry.
play Metricon
Take
or
that
whatever
back.
it's
Not
called.
much. People First. My cousin works for People First, so sorry. Sorry, cousin Stu.
That's okay.
But it has
I
a
did
similar
play
feel
that
to here, I
once.
would say.
Yeah.
A kind of like this is our home, similar size and that sort of thing.
I would like to play on Adelaide Oval.
Maybe with your cricket career. Day night.
If you saw me play cricket these days, that is
Sorry,
possibly the nicest thing you've ever said to me, but the most ridiculous thing you've ever said.
Okay.
Alfie wants to know who's going to get the most Brownlow votes for the Cats this season.
Podcast guest Tom Stewart.
Ooh, nice. I still think Mr. Cameron, Jeremy
Yeah.
Cameron.
I don't know if I believe my answer. Maybe wishful thinking.
Miss Mabel wants to know, what are the nerves like heading into the first game? Can we say initially, just as well, I'm a fan. You work here at the club and a even more closely affiliated, but also as a fan, my nerves are always fairly high going into this first game because I just the idea of the Cats being, and it's not going to happen, but like 1-4 or 0-3 or something like that, I get real tense.
It's funny because I would guess you never would have thought that as a player.
No.
The focus is so much more.
As a player, I didn't get nervous. I got. You could feel the build up, and you could feel things shift. It's like, okay, no more of trying to stay relaxed, and intra-club or this practice match. It's okay. We're just trying these few little things. Get a bit of time on the bench because we're going to try this play here. It's like, nah, game time. So you could feel everything rise, but I didn't feel that true nerves, like, oh, I don't know, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But as somebody who can't control anything, I think my nerves are way higher.
In any sport, I think when you've got no control, it's you're much more nervous. It's funny, round one, you wake up 6 days before thinking about the game, or I do, and what am I going to say to the players pre-game, all this sort of stuff. It doesn't happen for round 2 or round 3. I'm not thinking about that stuff. But that's round 1 for you. My overwhelming emotion at this time of year, in all my roles combined, is a sense of envy for the boys, because when you're absolutely primed and ready to go, you've got a season ahead, it's all promise. I think that's when I feel most excited, and I think all our women's team feels it too. You're around, you're being like, oh, I wish I was just feeling what they're feeling at this time.
Let's do it. Let's play.
Yeah.
It is a great time of year. It's funny, I answered that question almost probably with the latter memories of my career in mind, no nerves. I've got to go back and think, in my second or third season, if I maybe let's say third season, because I don't reckon I played a round 1 game for my first 2 years, I probably did have nerves. I shouldn't just dismiss that immediately. Younger players who think, if I don't play well in this round 1 game, I'm going to be dropped straight away. Yeah, their nerves probably would be pretty high. But let's hope they're not too high, and hopefully they go out and play great football. I'm sure they will. 120 or is it 115? 120. Thank you very much, Jake. I reckon I said the wrong thing on radio this morning. That's a nice little correction for me then.
I know it to be there a bit early.
Yeah, 1:20 p.m. at GHMBA Stadium. We mentioned it with Stewie. Wear sunblock, wear a hat, because it's going to be, at the moment, the forecast is 34. for Saturday.
Or a headband if you'd like to. But apply the SPF.
Yep, absolutely. It'll be a great test. First up, Fremantle are expecting a big year, as the Cats are. I can't wait for it now. It's kind of like, I'm not an opening round fan. It shouldn't have started last weekend. Don't get me bogged down on that. I am pumped.
Hot takes at the end.
Well, I want all 18 teams, bang, let's go. The sense of anticipation. Still play the games in New South Wales and Queensland, absolutely. Not trying to shift it to a Vic bias or anything like that. But let all 18 team supporters go, footy's here, come on.
I agree.
And that's what it feels like this Saturday. So hopefully, Meg, we are talking next week on the podcast.
Let's do it. Let's break the trend.
About a terrific first up win by the Cats over Fremantle. Enjoy your day at the footy.
I will. Good luck with your cricket.
For my cricket. I will be watching the replay as soon as I get home. I have none of my kids coming along to support me at cricket because they're all going to be here at the footy. It'll hopefully be a really good fun day. We'll be back next week.
See you then.